Oh my goodness, I am so glad to be home, but I had an incredible experience flying out to San Diego for a few days last weekend to get to meet with my long-term friend and business mentor, Amber McHugh, and some of my other business besties. And it was so much fun and so amazing. But anytime I take time off and get out of routine, either for a vacation or a conference or something that I am strategizing about my career or anything like that, it can be difficult to get back into routine, back into my regular energy when I get home. So I thought I would make a quick little video sharing with you sort of how I'm getting back on track to finish up Camp NaNoWriMo and keep working on my novel, even after a conference or a vacation or a break. So let's get started. This trip was definitely filled with a lot of inspiration, and I ended up extending my stay an extra day because we had the Airbnb and we were right on the beach in Mission Beach. I did vlog some of this, by the way, so I will have a video coming up in a little bit about that. But when I got home, I was exhausted. I definitely did not get as much sleep out there. There's a slight time difference change, it's a 2-hour time difference, and I missed my kids. And as soon as I got home, it was baseball game, date night, my husband's birthday, my best friend flew in from Charlotte. There were a lot of things going on. So here it is, Friday. I'm gonna record and edit and get this out today, I hope. Just kind of trying to get my sea legs, so to speak. I'm just trying to get back into my routines because even though I did and always do build some buffer around conferences especially, I still have to get myself back on track, and my energy has still been lower than I expected it to be, which is understandable. I find that sometimes vacations are not as restful as we want them to be, but sometimes even getting back from a restful vacation, there's things to do like laundry and cleaning up the house. Like every time I go away, I have this expectation of myself that I'm going to like clean the house so that when I come home, everything's like perfect and pristine, but it never works out that way. Every single time I'm like scrambling at the last minute to get everything packed, and I end up leaving a mess everywhere. Then I have to unpack everything and get back into routine. And all of that takes time and energy after a trip away. And so I'm going to just sort of talk through, and this will be a little bit of a chatty, potentially rambly video. I'm going to talk through the steps that I've taken to get myself back to a working weekend, because I've got to be working on my book a little bit. I'm excited to work on my book this weekend, and how I'm preparing for a day one coming up on Monday, where I'm going to be hopefully just zipping right back into routine. Now, a word about conferences in particular. If you've ever been to a writing conference or a work conference, I feel like these are the more difficult types of events to get back in a routine. Vacation, sure, you do the laundry, you get a little bit of rest, and then you get back into work. But with conferences, our brains are just so filled with information and strategy and things that we want to implement and things that we want to do. And so I have a special sort of workflow or get back into routine flow when it comes to conferences or masterminds or retreats where I'm going to be with people and strategizing about my future. And speaking of conferences, I've had a lot of people ask me, Sarah, what conferences do you recommend for authors out there? And one of the best in the industry that is a don't miss is InkersCon. It is run by Alessandra Torre. She is a massively successful, multiple New York Times bestselling author. And InkersCon always has a reputation for having some of the best speakers in the industry. And they actually have two versions of their conference. There's an in-person conference here in Dallas, which I didn't get to go to because it was my son's birthday and we had other plans, but I will be going next year, I hope. And then they also have a virtual conference. And this conference has, I believe, over 25 amazing speakers that you can watch at your own pace just whenever you get a chance. So you don't have to just have what we call conference head and come back from an event. Instead, you get to pace yourself, which is really, really helpful. But there are some live events too, like author roundtables, Q&As, and there's a planning event, which of course, I'm all in for and hope to participate in, where you can really map out your strategy for the next 6 months or so in your author career. So if that sounds good to you and you want to join me at InkersCon this year, Alessandra and the team at InkersCon have offered our community $50 off their already reasonable conference fee for the virtual conference coming up. It starts just over a week. I believe July 22nd is their big kickoff event. But like I said, even if you aren't available that week to go through each individual session right away, you're going to have access to these videos for a long time to come. So if you're interested in reading more, I will put all of that down in the description box. And to get that $50 off, you just use the code Sarah23. And remember, Sarah is with a double R, SARRA 23. And I will see you there. Let me know if you're going to do it. Maybe we could do a post InkersCon Hardee's event or something like a live stream or Q&A to kind of talk about what we learned. These types of author conferences, masterminds, retreats, and events can be pivotal in our career. It can really help us to level up and go to the next, like really open our mind to the next level of what we need to do for our author career. But like I said, sometimes coming back from these conferences, like I'll be speaking at NINC in September, I did RAM last year. Sometimes we might do 2 or 3 events like this or more for some of you throughout the year. So how do you come back and get back into routine? So I'm just going to walk you through some of what I like to do. So thank you to everybody, first of all, who watched my setup for this binder. I love, somebody suggested Sage Planner for Sarah, Andrew, George, and Evie. And I actually just met someone this weekend named Sage that I adored. So I might call this my Sage Planner, but I also liked the idea of just calling it a family planner or a home planner. There were a lot of really good ones. Some people called it Home Base, which I really loved, especially because my son is in baseball right now. So thank you for all those suggestions. I took one of my new list pages from this and I just created a brain dump gist list. So that's one of the first things that I do because I tend to come back from conferences or vacations feeling like there's so much to do that it's overwhelming. And a tried and true strategy for me when I'm overwhelmed is to just write it all down, because 9 times out of 10, there's not as much there as I think. And if I can just break it down into manageable steps, I start to breathe a little easier and I start to get myself into action and into a plan. So my list says things like get the laundry done, unpack, clean the bathroom, clean up and tidy my bedroom, get my offices ready to go for a reset, that kind of thing. Another thing that I love to do besides like to-do list brainstorm is I like to set aside a couple of hours, especially after a conference or time with friends, to strategize and really write down all of my takeaways from the event. I have skipped this step in the past and really regretted it because it tends to just be noise in the back of my brain. Like, oh yeah, remember when they said that? Plus, I want to capture all of my thoughts when they're still fresh. This time I had a 2.5 hour plane ride home. And so I spent a lot of that plane ride on my iPad, just journaling about it. And actually the guy sitting next to me was like, that's a really big journal there that you're using. Big expensive journal. And it's like, yes, he's like, I would be using that for a TV. And I did actually watch a couple of videos as well. But yes, I used my iPad and GoodNotes as a journal to get all those thoughts out about everything that really stuck with me about the conversations that we had and the things that we did. It can be helpful to journal all those takeaways and to make a list of things that I want to take action on now, like things I want to change or strategize or decide, versus the things I want to put in my future parking lot. So this is a concept that I also got from Amber McHugh years ago. She calls it the $1 million parking lot, which is a place where you can take the ideas that you don't have time for now, but you don't want to forget, and just list them out. And so this is in the HB90 planner. There is a future ideas parking lot or a space in the planner for you to put down ideas that you can't take action on now because of time or circumstances, or you're just not ready, but you can hold them. And it kind of tells your brain like, okay, be chill. We took care of this idea. Now you can just, revisit that in the future. So I like to do that post-conference. Like, what are the things I can take action on now? And what are the things that go into my future idea parking lot that I can deal with next quarter or the quarter after that? And that gives me a little bit of peace of mind and peace in general. The next thing that I do, besides just like loving on my family, because I really miss my kids, it's hard to be away from them for 3 or 4 nights. So I just Loved them up. Andrew had a baseball game and won, and we spent a lot of time with George for his birthday, and it has just been wonderful. So besides that, I also like to decide on day one. And what I mean by that is when I come back, now some of you might be great at coming back from something and just getting into action, back into routine day one. My husband is like that. He can come back, do his laundry that night, wake up the next morning like he was never gone, like ready to go back into routine because he's just very much a creature of habit. I am not like this. So your mileage may vary here depending on your own personality. But I am somebody who I tend to just be at rest, and I need a lot of rest after vacations. And in fact, I think that for me, there's a balance between rest and listening to your body, which is so important. Like, listen to your body, take the rest that you need, and getting into action, because I have a PCOS body that I was just recently diagnosed with obstructive sleep apnea. So if I do nothing but listen to my body when it tells me to rest, I would do nothing but rest like all the time forever. And so I do also need some kind of momentum and motivation to get myself back into aligned like action and routine. Otherwise, I'll just rest forever. And so I've kind of decided over the last couple of days, checking in with myself, do I feel like getting back into things yet? And obviously today I'm recording this video, but I canceled my coffee chat with my Sarah Cannon. So it's a little bit of a half working day. And so what I've decided is day one for me, meaning the day that I will get back to what I consider my morning routine and be at 100%, is going to be Monday. And for me, that's almost an entire week of break. And that's okay, because I needed it. And it has been really good for me to just ease my way back in. But it's also super helpful for me to say, this is my day one, and I'm going to prepare myself mentally, emotionally, prepare my space so that Monday morning I sit down and everything is prepared. I want to have, so this is all on my list here. I want to have my week 3 planned for Q3. I want to have my meal plan and groceries. I want to have my spaces cleaned up. And then once I've picked that day one, I ease my way into getting all those tasks done without feeling frantic or panicked about it. I just kind of enjoy it and take my time with it. So yesterday, what I did was I tackled some of the things like putting away my makeup, tidying up the bathroom, tidying up my office. So here's a little look at how that went. So today I'm getting a video out for Heart Breathings, but listening to my energy, I canceled my Sarah Cannon video, and that's okay. Not always going to be ideal, but sometimes when we come back from vacations or we've been off routine, we just need to take a little break and give ourselves a little bit of extra breathing room. And that's what I did. And I am proud of myself for doing that. And I'm honoring myself for doing that. even if it disappoints other people. I'm a recovering people pleaser, and I'm proud of myself for being able to do that. And I know 100% that my fans have my back over there, and I can feel really good about it. So kind of letting go of the things that you promised when you need a little extra rest is a big step forward for me in getting back into routine. Now, back into routine right now also means Camp NaNoWriMo. So I wanted to update you on my writing plans. I usually am not someone who can go away to a conference or an event and get my normal writing done. So I worked that into my plan for Q3, but I wasn't expecting to basically lose all of this week. So I'm a little bit behind where I intended to be. If you've been watching my videos, you know that for Camp NaNoWriMo in July, I was hoping to have The Disappearance of Vanessa Shaw completely finished so that I could put it up for pre-order in August. It's not looking so good, but I'm just going to do the best I can and not add additional stress to myself. I will say that my accountability partnership with my husband, where I am setting a deadline with him, and then if I make it, I get paid. If I don't make it, I have to pay him. Then that has been working. So I turned in Act 1 on time. It's about the first 19 to 20,000 words of my book. And he said it was amazing, which, trust me, he has told me many times before when he didn't think it was quite there. So it means a lot that after a bit of a writing hiatus, he really thinks it's great. So I'm encouraged to keep moving forward. So we have also set a deadline for me to, like we set a mini deadline, because I didn't feel after the break that I was ready for, okay, let's turn in the next 20,000 words. So we worked it backwards a little bit, and we have a mini deadline that Sunday by 9 p.m. I need to turn in an outline of the scenes. This is just a list of the scenes that I'm going to include in Act 2, Part 1. So this is about the next 20 to 24,000 words of the book, and all I have to do is have a list of the scenes that I'm going to include, which means over the next couple of days, I need to find some time to really sit down and focus on which scenes from my rough draft I'm going to be using in that final or the next version of edits and get that done. Then at that point, we will set our next deadline based on how I feel those scenes are in shape. I have a feeling right now what we'll do is by next Friday at 9 p.m., I will be turning in the next 20,000 words, but we'll see. We'll set that deadline on Sunday night. But this is another thing that can be helpful to get yourself back on track is if you have a big goal that you feel like you're a little behind on and you're trying to get back into routine, sometimes it can be helpful to step that goal back a little bit and give yourself a mini goal that you can reach for in the next couple of days. Instead of saying, by the end of the month, I'm going to have this big thing done. It can be motivational to say, okay, by Tuesday afternoon, I'm going to have this little piece of the goal finished, and that can help you build back your momentum. Another thing before we go is just another idea that can work is to revisit. If you've ever made a vision board in one of my classes or just on your own, revisit your vision. Get grounded again in the things that you're trying to accomplish. What are my goals for this month? What are my goals for this quarter? What's due? What's coming up due soon? What can I push back? Do I need to make extra room? And just kind of give yourself a little bit of a review and a refresh on what you're trying to accomplish, why it's so important to you, and do you need to create a little bit of extra space? And just giving yourself permission to not be like, I have to follow the plan. Because I think the thing that holds me back or has held me back most in the past when I get off routine is that I start to panic that I'm going to be behind and I'm letting people down. And that negative energy tends to spiral and it sends me into even more negative energy, more panic. And I end up wasting time and energy on things that a year later really didn't matter all that much. And so I encourage you, if you have been on a break and you're getting back on track, give yourself a little bit of space, pick your day one, and ask yourself, what do I need to get done to make day one feel really good? Is it getting my meals in order, my environment, my space in order? Do I need a little bit more rest? Do I need a self-care day? What do I need to get ready for day one? Pick that day one and then set mini goals for yourself. Remind yourself of why you're doing this and why it's important to you to get this work done, and then just dive back in. The final tip, of course, is to not be hard on yourself if you hit day one and it really is only a half energy day still, because sometimes we need a little bit more time, and it's okay to say, okay, day one, I got 3 out of 10 things on my list. Day 2, let's try to aim for 4, and slowly build yourself back into your writing routine. Because sometimes even just 3 or 4 days out of routine can kind of set us off balance a little bit for quite a bit of time. So, all right, that's all I have for you today. Thanks for hanging out with me for just a very chill kind of chat about getting back on track. I'm so excited to work on the next piece of this novel. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait. I'm excited for Inkers Con. If you want to come join me as I watch through those videos and you want to chat a little bit about what you learned, come join us, Sarah23 for $50 off. It starts in just a week, so check out the description box below, or I sent you an email today if you're on my list for information on that. Next week, I really do hope to have my Q3 reset, which I have pushed back a couple of times. I'm looking at my Kanban board right here. It's still not fully set up. So if you're a little behind, don't worry about it. It's all going to get done and everything is going to be just fine. You're doing great. I believe in you. I hope you have an amazing weekend ahead. All my love to you, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.